Hello everybody! So it is October 11th. I have updated you a little bit late for this vlog again. So it's already Saturday. This vlog will run until either Tuesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll see. But we are currently trying to catch up, because if you saw last week's installment, which is a short 10-minute vlog, so feel free to go and check it out first if you haven't already. I'm running further and further behind on my reading goal for the month every single day. Now, I also indicated in that vlog that it is not my main priority to finish all these books this month. I am aware that it's a stretch, and that it's a stretch after a month in which I already did a massive stretch. So potentially I won't make it, but still I want to kind of try and keep a little bit more on track, because currently, we went into this week halfway in terms of page count, more or less, but that still meant we were already some 500 pages behind, and at some point we were almost 700 pages behind. So I am back to being 580 pages behind or something like that at the end of yesterday, and so the goal for today is just to basically try and reduce that a little bit. It is a challenge weekend for the Climates Reading Club, which is hosted by Abdullah from the channel Bookworm Wonder. So this weekend I set myself two goals. One is to read 500 pages across the entire weekend, and the other is to film and edit 2 videos. So I have just edited one. I will edit another one later today, probably even another one still this weekend, and then I will be filming a video right after filming this clip, and then I just need to check what else I could still potentially film this weekend. But so yes, we are behind. The reading of 500 pages is going to cut into that backlog, but it's not going to remove it. I need to read 585 pages more than I at the bare minimum would have to read in order to catch up, and that is just not feasible. So we are going for a light impact. I'm hoping to reduce the backlog by 120 pages by reading 500 pages this weekend, and then we will see. Next weekend is going to be very light on the reading for the monthly goal, but I also have 3 days off around the weekend in which I can hopefully catch up to that and minimize the damage. So if we can just keep on chipping away 100 pages at a time throughout the weekends and try to keep up throughout the week, maybe this is still doable. Probably not. This week has already been better in terms of this reading process than it was in the first week, because the problem that I mentioned in the first week is that I don't have audiobooks for the books that are on my want to read list for October. And so yeah, the first week I did have an almost okay page count. I was almost at the correct page count, except that 2 of the books that I was reading in did not contribute to the actual page count goal because they were not counted into those numbers. So this week, so far, everything that I've been reading, every single page that I've read has been towards this goal. So every single day that I'm reading, at least I know that every single page that I'm consuming is actually contributing to it. And that is because I downloaded the audiobook for Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. So I used one of my precious Audible credits. I still have one to use, but the other, but in November there's a book that is being published that I definitely want to use an Audible credit for. I will get a new credit somewhere in November, so it should be fine if I use up both of my credits now. I can still have that one credit then. But so yes, we definitely we definitely don't have a lot to play with when it comes to Audible neither. But so yeah. I am reading Ghost Station on my commute. This is a horror book in which we have a therapist who is going on a mission in space to help a team that has just lost one of its team members. And so far we haven't been introduced to the horror elements within the book. There are some stuff happening here or there, but a lot of it is just sort of pranks. For example, in the beginning when she wakes up on the station, it's completely abandoned, and she sees the the Colt's capsules next to her are filled with what appear to be the bodies of her other crew members. However, it turns out that it was just a prank and that, you know, basically they were just like hazing the new member on the team. And there are a few instances like that where something weird is found, but there is like an explanation for it. But yes, we will see. So far we haven't really had the spooky atmosphere. So far it's a lot about sort of like the tension between the crew and the tension between a mentality that sees mental health as being sort of like, you know, like for wussies, for softies, a very macho, strong, you know, like strong exterior to break through type of crew, versus this new therapist who's trying to introduce some more reflection and openness in sharing emotions and in processing grief with the team. But so, that is what I'm reading when it comes to the commute to work, occasion when I'm cooking as well, though I also have another audiobook on the side that I will eventually talk about at some point throughout the month, I guess. But my main focus these past few days has been the Silverblood Promise by James Logan. This is the Illumicrate special edition. No, it's not. This is the Broken Binding special edition with illustrations by Jeff Brown. I love these illustrations. I love the end pages as well. I have now been able to order my copy of the Blackfire Blade, which will come out on the 6th of November. So the Silverblood Promise is a adventure fantasy, I would mainly call it, in which we have our protagonist Logan Gardova, who is exiled, or has exiled himself basically, into God knows where. That place I cannot remember. However, on one of these nights in which he's just like going on a drunken pub crawl, he is approached by his former steward, who lets him know that his father has been killed. His father left him a note with 3 words on it: Logan, so his name, Safrona, a city, and Zandrusa, a word that nobody knows what it refers to. So Logan sets off to Safrona to try and find out who or what Zandrusa is and figure out how they or it is involved with the murder of his father. And along the way he gets embroiled into this massive sort of plot that has to do with the high and mighty of the city, as well as some ancient artifacts that belong to a long-lost civilization called the Pharaon. I really enjoy the Silverblood Promise. I am currently some 400 pages into my reread of it. I will do a recap video of it as well, though I've also already read online that there will be a recap in the second book as well, so you don't necessarily need to reread the book in order to go into the second one, apparently, but I always love going in for a full reread, and I have enjoyed this experience a lot. This is a book that I'm going through really quickly, except for the fact that I want to make a recap video for it, so I'm writing down the summary along with reading through the book. But yes, I like the humor of our protagonist and the banter that he has with a strong, like a young street urchin who tried to rob him on the first day that he arrived in the city, and who is now basically just like tagging along and helping him out, and so while he is constantly like being hard on her and like trying to get her to stay off, like she is like ultimately you very much clearly see that he cares about her and her well-being. But so yeah, that's mainly what I've been reading. This weekend is going to be mainly a reading weekend and a weekend to film, as indicated by my goals for this reading challenge. But I will also go to my parents on Sunday. I might still go into town today as well to get some things, because I did go to a store yesterday to buy some new food for Fate, and then I also got some like snacks for myself, but I might want some more, you know, like there's always room for some other snack in there, right? But yeah, also potentially my laziness is not gonna allow for that, and I will just sit in the sofa the entire weekend. But so yeah, I am going to go back onto the sofa, read some more of this right now. I do still first have to continue recapping what I read last night, and then I'll read some more in this, and I'll probably mediate between this and the other book that I'm hoping to finish throughout this weekend, which is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, which is as the title suggests, a Gothic atmosphere book set in Mexico about this girl who is going to visit her cousin in a remote estate because they have received a letter from her which is somewhat alarming. This book is very much atmosphere, atmosphere, atmosphere. A lot of Gothic vibes, which, you know, like the dark house where there's no electricity, so you have to move around with candles. Nobody seems to be opening up about anything. They all seem to be very closed off and not willing to speak a lot. The foggy ground surrounding the house. When she goes down into the city, into the town, people like don't really know much about the house, and all what they really do know are like these spooky, scary stories. So yeah, it's a lot of vibes for the moment, which also means that it's not fully hooked me yet. Like, I'm ready for something to start happening. But so yeah, talk to you guys later. So, hey guys, it is Monday. I'm exceptionally working from home because my neck has been hurting like over a week now, and this Monday was Mondaying very hard, so I was just like, you know what, I really don't feel like going to the office today. I feel like wallowing in the horror that is Monday. So yeah, we are living at home at the moment. We're working from home basically. So I mean, that was a good thing because it meant that I've just been like working on my foam roller basically, and I do feel like that has kind of finally released some of that tension in my back. But yeah, it is still not fully gone, but it's definitely already a little bit better. But so, I thought that first I would also show you a special edition that arrived. I think it arrived, technically speaking, during last week's vlog, but this, and I always forget to show like my special editions the moment I'm getting them. But so, this is the first sci-fi and fantasy subscription pick for the Broken Bindings new, you know, like subscription service. So I'm thinking that I'll probably switch off the fantasy subscription somewhere next year, and that I'll only keep the SFF subscription. This is a subscription that you can skip quite royally. I think this year it's still like bi-monthly, but at some point next year the intention is for it to become monthly, and I think you can skip like a total of 9 times maybe even throughout the year, so you don't even have to get half of the books in it to keep the subscription active. So I think that that is a pretty good deal. The idea is also that this is going to be new releases, whereas all of their previous subscription services have been re-releases or like, you know, like older books that they've done special editions for. The problem with that is always that, you know, like, I always feel that it's a great thing if you have already read the books and you want to get a special edition for them, but it just really doesn't work for my sort of like special edition FOMO, because I'm like, oh, let me get it because, you know, like I don't want to miss out on it. What if I really enjoy this series? However, then you're immediately stuck with an entire series, whereas with other subscription services where it's always just a one book, at least if you don't like that one book, then you just stopped it there, you know, like whereas this full older series thing just means that I mean, all of a sudden I got a full series lying around, and if I don't enjoy that one enough, then, you know, like I've paid for this entire series, whereas I may have like wanted to DNF the first one even, or like fall off after the first one. So I do have 2 full, like almost the 3rd book in the 2nd series still has to arrive, but I will have that with 2 series. I have skipped the 3rd series, like the final series that is coming in 2025, and we'll see what is announced for the first series of 2026 to see if I want to immediately skip that one or if I do want to give that one a go, but I'm kind of predicting that I'm gonna unsubscribe from that subscription somewhere in 2026, and that it's just going to be this one that I'm left with at that point in time, because I'm also kind of expecting that the Illumicrate one will fall off, and actually that would all be a great service to my TBR, because I do feel like quite a fair bit of the amount of books that arrive for me are books that are coming from subscription services, and while I don't dislike subscription services, I would love for more of my books to arrive intentionally. I like the concept of having a service choose books for you, and that you can then also to some extent still opt out of, but I would just love for more of the books that are arriving to be books that I'm picking up because I have intentionally looked at what are the books out there, which are the ones that I want to be prioritizing. So one subscription service sounds much more reasonable. But so, long story short, to talk about the first one, which is a pick that a lot of people were not that happy with. And potentially, if you had the option to skip the first book, I would have also skipped this one, because I do agree with most people's sort of like dislikes for this pick, because this is a new Witcher book. This is a prequel to the Witcher series, so this is basically the story of our protagonist from the Witcher series, Geralt, but how he is in training to become a Witcher. So in the Witcher himself, he's already like a full-grown Witcher, let's call it like that. And so this is a prequel in which you see a little bit of his training more. So in that sense, it is a subscription book service that makes some sense, in the sense of like it starts a story. However, it is a story that is part of a bigger fantasy world, and one that a lot of people may have already tried out. And so to that extent, I do understand people being a little bit upset with this first choice, because I think most of the people were excited about this being a subscription service where you're getting new releases and they're curating the new releases as things that might interest people. But this one is already clearly going to not interest anybody who has tried Witcher and hasn't enjoyed it. Plus, it is also part of a series that is already massive at this point in time, and I think most people just want with this subscription service to start something that is kind of like a clean slate. But I am coming off of the back end of a weekend of reading. So last time that I talked to you guys was somewhere in the beginning of it. Well, not really in the beginning, but you know, like on Saturday morning, when I still had a lot of work ahead of me in order to try and get my page goal down. So the intention was to read 500 pages, and I'm happy to say that I read 501 pages to get through that goal. And so I did reduce the TBR backlog a little bit, with like 121 pages, I think the backlog was reduced by. So I was at the end of this weekend 466 pages behind on the reading goal. So getting a little bit closer. Let's see if we can kind of try and keep it around that point. But I've also finished the book. So I finished my reread of the Silverblood Promise. It's still an amazing book. I really enjoy it. It's just like got such a nice pacing to it. Real adventure fantasy story. I love the protagonist. I love the relationship that builds between him and this street urchin who tries to rob him on his first day in this new town. And yeah, I'm very happy that I did this reread, because it definitely made like a lot of things come back to me. It's like this interesting experience when, like me, you have a mind that basically cannot hold on to details or to general information neither, and then you're rereading a book that you really enjoyed, and like a lot of it, so much of it has gone, and then you get to this point where you're like speculating about what happens later in the book, and you're like, well, I mean, is this speculation or is this just my brain kind of remembering after all? And there are certain scenes in this that I definitely like remembered the atmosphere of. There's like a scene in a tomb that I definitely did remember that there was some sort of a scene in a dark catacomb type of setting, and so I really enjoyed my reread of the Silverblood Promise. I'm very much looking forward to the Blackfire Blade and to discovering a new location, because we will be moving to a different part of this world. And yeah, I'm just very much looking forward to it, because this one definitely just like made me really excited about this world, these characters, and what is gonna be coming next again. Yeah, and then aside from that, I made a little bit of progress in Mexican Gothic, but really not that much. I should probably just DNF, and I say that all the time and then I don't do it. I think I will probably just see if I can find some sort of like review of somebody who read Mexican Gothic, because in my opinion it's just dragging, you know, like there's just too much atmosphere, not enough happening, and at this point in time I'm just like, it's just a slog for me to get through. I think I am now past the halfway point, but still. And then I also made some progress in Terra, Ignota book 2, so in 7 Surrenders, which is a book that I won't be able to say much about, because it really just like picks up back from where the previous book stopped, and a lot of what the book is like doing is just like giving further information for you to understand what is happening in what's happening in the first book, for example. So it very much builds upon the first book and just like gives you even more background and insight into what is really going on, into the world building, into the politics, into the backstabbing and the manipulation, political games and stuff like that. So, but I've definitely been enjoying that one, and so that's mainly what I've been reading throughout this weekend. That was like nice audiobook pages to get done as well. And then this morning I started my next reread, which is the Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. When I was marking this one as currently reading, I saw that I finished it in 2022, so it's actually already 3 years since I read it. And so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to re-experiencing this story the way that it happened with the Silverblood Promise. With the Silverblood Promise, it had been like a year ago since I read it, so at least I had some inkling of this story. With the Stardust Thief, everything about this book has disappeared from my brain, and I'm very happy to be re-exploring it now. So I'm just one chapter in, but from that one chapter I've at least already reclaimed the knowledge that we are following our protagonist called Luli, who is called the Midnight Merchant. She is specialized in getting items that are rare, items to procure, and so in the beginning of this book she is actually procuring a magical cure for somebody. And the reason why she's able to so easily give him that cure is because she's accompanied by a djinn sidekick, and there's already some sort of hints of a tragic backstory which has to do with the death of her mother, I believe, with potentially also the annihilation of her entire tribe, because there is some sort of a reference to the fact that she is the only one left of her tribe, or that's how I interpreted it. And I think that yeah, very soon we'll be on the path where she is going to be hired by either the king, or she's going to be or the crown prince, and a little bit hazy on those details. And then I'll probably have like the bigger plot back in my mind. But yeah, so far I've just read 13 pages, so I cannot really say too much about my rereading experience. Definitely that was all gone. Like Luli's name, yes, I mean not actively, but there was no surprise there. But like the fact that she had a djinn sidekick had already skipped my mind, because I knew that there was I was like, I think there's a djinn in there, but now I was like, wait, the djinn is like her sidekick, so it's like basically like the second protagonist. Like how did I forget that? So yeah, yeah, nothing left for me to say then. Let me just continue on. I'm currently on my lunch break, so I'm just gonna prepare some lunch now, and then in the principle I was gonna go to the cinema tonight, but I already think that I'm gonna not do that. You know, Friday is an okay day for me to make myself go to the cinema. And last Friday I didn't go because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go on Monday. But Monday, yeah, I don't know, it's something about the weekdays that are not followed by like a weekend that apparently just make me go like, am I really gonna go to the cinema now? Because it's just like, it just cuts into your spare like evening time so much by going to the cinema. So I am a little bit like, I might still change my mind. It's gonna be very last minute if I change my mind, because basically it's gonna be the sneak preview tonight, which means that it's like a movie that's gonna release next month that they already show now and you don't know which one it is in advance. And I do enjoy that concept a lot. I do think that that is fun, and that you can end up with movies that you would have never gone to see but then turn out to be really, really good. But yeah, I just don't think I'm gonna make myself do it tonight. You know, I've just cut down a little bit on my backlog. I feel like I'll probably want to keep the status quo a little bit longer, even if it is just tonight, and even if I lose it tomorrow again because I have an appointment at the bank tomorrow. But yeah, let's leave the illusion of being of catching up a little bit longer. Of course, if I DNF the Mexican Gothic, then I will be more on top of things as well. Tempting. Hello guys, I am back from the office. It is Wednesday, which means that normally this was going to end yesterday evening, but yesterday evening was the day in which there was not much reading that happened. There was not much focusing power yesterday, and so we are further behind. I had caught up during the weekends, I had semi-kept up on Monday evening, but Tuesday was a disaster. So I'm adding Wednesday evening into this vlog because we are going to reduce this backlog again. And I'm going to start by cooking and listening to my audiobook for a little bit more. And hopefully that's already going to give me a few pages extra at least. And then I'm going to dive into the Stardust Thief and try and get as far along in that as possible. Now, I have finished the book since we last spoke, because I think right after I gave you my last update, I was convinced that I was going to DNF Mexican Gothic. I asked on my Discord, Kitty had read it and she was like, nah, I'm also mediocre about it. Peter had read it and he was like, I really enjoyed it, but if you are not enjoying it halfway through, then you are not going to enjoy further of it. But then there came the realization, first bummer. I was going to count this for r/fantasy bingo for the book by BIPOC author, for which hard mode was a horror. And of course, I could still replace that, right? I could still read another horror by a BIPOC author later within the year. So that would have not made me change my mind. What made me change my mind was the fact that for Herkiat, hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, there is a prompt to read books for specific heritage months within the heritage month period. I mean, you can read them outside, but you get more scores when you read them inside that period. Do I even track those things? No, I don't. But I will know that I haven't done hard mode, and I am aiming for hard mode. So I had until the 15th of October, which is today, to read a book that is by a Hispanic author. And so I was like, oh, that's why I needed Mexican Gothic this month. So with only 130 pages left in Mexican Gothic, it made most sense to just continue it. Now, luckily for me, Mexican Gothic did really start to pick up from that point onward. So I think the chapter that I first read after going back into it was the first chapter in which something really started to happen, and then it was going by much quicker. I will still say it is not for me. I didn't really have an amazing time with this book, and the fact that it was so much atmosphere and so little action for such a long time within the book is a downside for me, and definitely takes down the rating a lot. I definitely get easier in the end when there was something happening, when it wasn't just oh, is something happening, or is she just imagining things, or so yeah, that's something that I guess we can conclude that I don't actually like all that much in books. And I can kind of say that is also what is happening with my current horror that I'm listening to, which is Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. It is also one where it's there's not really anything happening, and I'm also just a little bit can we get a move on at this point in time? But so yeah, I am going to be listening to my audiobook for a little bit while cooking, and then I will get back to the Stardust Thief, which I started 2 nights ago, I think, or yesterday morning, probably yesterday morning I started it. And so I was hoping to get a ton of progress in that yesterday evening. But as I said, yesterday evening, it was it isn't even I tried that much, I will admit. I was just constantly feeling putting on something else on YouTube, for example. And then when one video was over, I just put something else on. So I was just kind of stuck in the YouTube spiral. But so yes, tonight we are going to get moving and get that backlog back under control. It is currently, at this point in time, 670 pages by 617 pages behind. I would like to get it back to 500. It has been under 500 at its best point, but let's just get it back to 500, which is already a nice accomplishment, because that would already mean that, I've read the necessary page count for today and a little bit more. And so we're back in the better direction when it comes to my reading. Because yeah, I wouldn't like to end this vlog being more or less as far behind as I was at the beginning of the week, when I feel I also made so much progress throughout the weekends. And so yes,
let's reduce the yo-yo a little bit. Or like, well, it is a yo-yo, like clearly, but let's just move the yo-yo in the other direction a little bit so that we can end this vlog on a little bit of a more positive note.
So it is Friday morning. We shall pretend like Thursday hasn't happened, okay? Because I need to round off this vlog, and this vlog supposedly ended on Wednesday, and the better for it, because otherwise I still needed to extend it again. So on Wednesday evening I did eventually manage to get the backlog back down a little bit, so I ended up getting a backlog of like 520-ish pages, so I think like 524 or something like that is where it was at the end of Wednesday. We, as indicated, will not talk about Thursday. Thursday didn't happen because I can tell you that I'm not at that number anymore. Yes, I regardless had a good time last week, but as indicated in the previous clip, it has been a little bit of a roller coaster when it comes to my reading mood. And I guess the main thing that I find annoying about that is that I didn't substitute it with anything of Word, you know. I substituted it with like YouTube videos of reactions to things that I've already seen, and you know, fine, I get my enjoyment out of whatever I get my enjoyment out of, but when I feel like my entire week has been spent on watching tons of these things, and then my reading hasn't been where I wanted it to be, then I feel like I've kind of just like wasted my time. I would feel much better about wasting my time, so to speak, if I would have just watched something new. For example, if I would have gone to the cinema instead, if I would have had an appointment with friends, if I would have gamed, if I would have you know, spend a lot of time on creative stuff or anything like that, rather than just pointlessly, conveniently watching stuff that, you know, is just something that I've already watched. But, you know, that is my comfort. In my comfort, I seek out stuff that I already know. And so let's just assume that for one reason or another I needed it in the week that has just gone by, and let's hope that we are somewhat ready to move on. And I do still have to say that also I have still got quite a lengthy page count down already this month, and I am constantly talking about how my reading isn't where I want it to be, but actually I am at the correct page count. It's just that I have those 2 books that I read at the beginning of the month that were counting pages towards my goal that didn't actually contribute to the goal, that make for this weird situation where I'm like annoyed at myself for being so far behind, but at the same time I'm actually quite on track if it weren't for the fact that I'm just reading the wrong things. But so, with that being said, let's put a capper on this week. We managed to more or less stabilize things with a lot of ups and downs throughout this week, and we will go into next week trying to come up with a game plan, because next week is gonna be a problem for this particular reading month's TBR, and you'll find out about that when next week comes around. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and see you guys for the next one. Bye!